Welcome to Community Dialogue presented by Kaiser Permanente. Today we're discussing Bridging the Gap, Generational Diversity. We're exploring how organizations can create workplaces where employees of all ages feel valued, respected, and empowered to contribute. Today, joining us are Judy McMurtry, entrepreneur and leadership coach, Subramanya Hariprisad, a Georgia Tech student and Chamber PINtern representing the next generation entering the workforce, and Anita, owner of multiple successful restaurant brands that employ team members across several generations. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you
Thanks
for
for having
Thank
inviting
you.
us.
Yes. So, first question. When you hear the phrase generational diversity, what comes to mind and why is it important for organizations today? Anita?
Well, generational diversity makes me think of the different ages that we hire at Sweet Auburn and Gezzo's, Lazy Betty, Tio Lucho's, and it immediately kind of makes me think of the challenges that come with that. There's also a lot of benefits as well. But yeah, it just kind of makes you realize that, as a seasoned entrepreneur, I've been doing this for 25 years. It's kind of a blessing that we're at a place where our company has grown to the size where we can benefit from people with more wisdom and then maybe people who have fresh ideas and energy who are a little younger coming in. But it definitely has its pros and cons.
Judy?
Generational diversity for me is understanding that people are different, even, as far as age wise, and they were born in a different time. And things are not the same as far as the environment. So you have to respect that and get to know individual people versus just focusing on their age and that they're young, but find a common ground to connect with them. That's for diversity for me. I just look at it a little different. And because we're different, that's really basically the basic definition of diversity is different.
Subramanya?
Yeah, to me, generational diversity, I believe, is being in a place with a lot of different age generations, but being able to kind of find a connection across everyone you're working with, no matter how old, how young, how experienced, how inexperienced they are. Yeah, that's how I define generational diversity.
So, Judy, as a business owner and coach and mentor, you've worked with professionals at many different career stages. What leadership approaches help unite employees from different generations?
Well, what I do first is I always give an assessment. I'm a consultant for DISC, and I administer assessment. And that's the best way to get to know the individuals that you're going to be working with. And it's a great way for young people to connect and get to understand who I am and how I interact with them. So that way, no one's offended because they look at my personality that it's more dominant than it would be that I'm angry because I'm a high DI. So I have to watch that. And Supermania is a DC. So every time I have employees that I work with, no matter what their age, I start off with their personality and we go out and I'll do a debrief and we get to know each other on that level first. And that's building relationship. Once you start that way and you see where your connections are with that individual and you're able to communicate better with each other.
So, what mistakes do leaders make when they're trying to manage age diverse teams?
The mistakes they make is assumptions. I don't like stereotyping. When you group people just because you're a Gen Z doesn't mean all Gen Zs are the same, or if you are any kind of ethnic background or whatever the case may be, they make a mistake by not understanding the person and getting to know them individually, personally, building that relationship and they'll come in and expect you to do something versus teaching you how and listening. They have great ideals just when they're young. They come with fresh ideas. So listen to what they have to say. And that collaboration alone is powerful because I'm learning from them as much as they learn from me. And that's the biggest mistake leaders make because they want you to do something a similar way because they're so used to this is how we've always done it. And they expect the people to come in and do it exactly the way they've always done it versus learning from them because they have a new, fresh idea of how to do it and make it better.
That is definitely something that I'm sure that everybody has seen. Subramanya, as a Georgia Tech student preparing for your career, what are you looking for in an employer?
Absolutely. One, I think, is a collaborative workspace across like the all verticals of the organization. To me, when I'm able to, for example, in the chamber, speak to pretty much anyone in the office, everyone in the office is willing to give their time to me, help me on an issue, give me information I need to get my tasks done. That shows me that the place I'm working is a very collaborative environment and the kind of place I want to be. Aside from collaboration, I think a general respect for new technology and new skills and understanding that, people that are just now entering the job market are going to know more about, people who have been in the job market for a while about certain things. As a student, I find that you're kind of forced and almost required to pick up new technologies, whether that's for a class, whether that's to get your homework done, whether that's to complete an assessment or an assignment. You're forced to learn all these new technologies and you have all this expertise. It's very beneficial to go into an employer workspace where the employer understands that you are going to have knowledge that other people don't have, and they want you to share that knowledge and give it to other people. Those are the two biggest things I look for.
Okay. So, let me just ask you, how do younger professionals prefer to receive feedback and communication with their supervisors?
Absolutely. I think this varies on the person type a lot, but a big thing that a lot of other students at Georgia Tech and I discuss is working somewhere and then their manager is unclear. I think clarity is the number one thing, however you define that. If that's, written feedback on a work product that you submit through an email and the manager gives you a very detailed list of feedback, that could be one way to do it. Another way could be your manager has a conversation to you about what you've done wrong and what needs to change. But I think by far the biggest impediment is clarity. There's a lot of leadership out there that unfortunately isn't very clear to interns or new grads who have just started their jobs. And that creates a kind of negative workplace where you're wondering, why am I working this job if I am not doing my job right, getting no feedback on how to do my job right, and then eventually just continue to lose responsibilities and you become a potato all day and you do no work. In that sense, I think a lot of people search for clarity and direct communication with their employer. I know I'm definitely that way. If I'm doing something wrong, if I'm going off the tracks, Judy will always reel me in. She'll tell me, you're building features on your software for this, but this is what we want instead. And I really appreciate that clarity because it saves me a bunch of time from diagnosing the issue myself and also makes it clear what I need to do and how I need to improve.
So, you've kind of answered this a little bit, but just what are you looking for in an organization to go to work for? What's going to attract you and retain you in that organization?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think number one, I'm looking for the organization to itself have a heavy emphasis on growth. We're in a very, very volatile time in terms of businesses and employers. And we see a lot of businesses dying out very quick because they're not able to grow or adapt to technology as well. For me, the ability to grow and the ability to adapt to technology is by far the biggest thing. Second is keeping the workplace competitive. I think that when I look for an employer, when I look for a place to work, I want to work somewhere that pushes all of its employees and has a competitive recruiting process. I think those two things make an employer or a possible future place of work important and worthwhile for me.
Thank you so much. Anita, your businesses employ team members from multiple generations. What challenges and opportunities come with managing such a diverse workforce?
I think that, Judy and Subramanya touched on a lot of that. It's just the difference in people's background and what they bring to the table. Even their communication style can differ amongst different generations. I would say the younger people that we have on our team enjoy texts. Sometimes in-person confrontation or having difficult conversations in person may be easier for some of our older team members, but the younger ones prefer maybe a text. It can be digested a little bit better and vice versa. So I think adapting to everybody's style is kind of the challenge that I have as a business owner. But at the same time, I think as a leader in the organization, if you're communicating that one of your values is to have people on your team who are adaptable, who can also be a team member, as in it's not just your way, but you have to realize that everybody receives feedback differently or does or likes direction in a different way, and just being accepting of everybody's personal work styles is really helpful. But I would say that that's one of the challenges. Communication, also work life balance is kind of a term that's come up a lot more with our younger people than our older employees, and we all value work life balance, but getting to really know, what does that mean? Some of our older employees, they don't mind getting texts on their day off because they are just like, yeah, I want to stay up to date. This is just part of what I'm used to. But then some of our younger people will say, hey, I need you to really respect my work life balance, and I don't want any texts on my day off, And so it's kind of those little nuances that we have to really pay attention to what's important to each individual team member, and just kind of be respectful of all of that.
Do you have an example of a time when maybe different generations on your team helped solve a problem or improve a customer experience?
So, an incident where we had multi generations help each other solve a problem is, in the restaurant business, we're always working on kind of programming that kind of elevates just not just the dining experience, but really just the kind of outside the food experience. And so I was having trouble really getting our social media to really catch on in certain ways. And so one of my younger team members said, Anita, I've noticed that we don't do as much on TikTok. And so that just one idea really sparked our marketing team to kind of shift our gears to more TikTok reels, which then led to a lot more views. And so, it wasn't necessarily a novel idea, but I think maybe because the younger generation spends more time on TikTok, it was more top of mind. And sometimes it just takes one person to really kind of advocate for an idea for it to really stick.
Actually, a really good example because I know that everybody asked the question about should we be on TikTok? Should we not? And so, it's a business decision that's individual as the individual person. So,
Right.
yeah, that's a really
Yeah.
good example. So, let's talk about stereotypes and focusing on individual strengths. So, and this really question is going to be for everybody is how do we move beyond those stereotypes and focus on individual strengths?
Okay, well, one, we are individuals, and that's the key piece. To move beyond stereotypes is to get to know a person really, and really it starts with listening more. And I'm practicing that myself. I'm not just sharing advice, but I've learned ever since I started really listening to individual people, it breaks down the stereotypes because you assume, and it comes with assumptions, that someone's one way when they're not, and it's misunderstanding for the most part. So you listen to understand the person, not listen to respond or answer, and that'll help you not to pass judgment or be stereotyping in any kind of way.
Yeah, I can kind of add to that. I think another good way to get past that stereotype is by setting a baseline for how you're going to communicate or how you're going to collaborate. In mine and Judy's case, I think that was the DISC assessment she gave us, which is like a personality test. I really opened me, the other intern, and her up to all of our styles of communication. And by doing so, we were able to learn that one, we all have individual styles of working and the way we work with each other. And it also made me acclimated to working with someone from an older generation because it made me realize that just like me, she has a different style of work and we can both focus on our work styles and not just that generational gap.
So, let's talk about mentorship and how does mentorship play a role in bridging those generational divides?
Well, the role it plays is, like you said, you're a role model. You're setting the example of the best way to be a leader. And you're also, it's mentorship is elevating the individual, looking at their potential inside and helping them to discover it. So that way you can help them grow and develop in the area they need to be in, not what you perceive them to be, but help them identify what they have to offer and their purpose and passion. and then help them excel in whatever way you can. That's mentorship for me. It's growth.
Absolutely. And I would say, in our organization, mentorship is very important. In the hospitality industry, we're really a people first industry where relationships are very important, not just how we develop relationships with our clients and our guests, but that starts with our teammates. We're firm believers of, if you treat your employees well, they can treat your guests well. And so it comes from the top. And so I know that, I will have regular kind of one-on-ones with some of my top leadership. And not only does that build trust because you're getting to know each other on a more personal level and deeper level, you're also learning kind of like their communication styles or what's going on with their lives. How can you support them, like Judy was saying, growth wise, personally and professionally. And so I think when you are taking care of your top people, it trickles down because then they can help take care of the rest of the team and the team can take care of your guests. So I think mentorship is very important.
Anything to add, Subramanya?
Yeah, for me, mentorship, I think, is the best way to, like you guys said earlier, build trust, know that the employer trusts you and wants you to grow. I also think it's the best way to grow your skills individually. Your employer or your mentor, whoever, is telling you what you can do better. And I think if you're able to take that advice and action it, it can lead to a lot of growth inside, whatever that may be, technical, life, leadership, etc.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to our panelists for sharing their insights and experiences. Community Dialogue is presented by Kaiser Permanente and produced by the Henry County Chamber of Commerce as part of our ongoing commitment to fostering leadership, engagement, and inclusive workplaces throughout our community. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Community Dialogue.